Let's take a look at the PulseChain ecosystem here next. As we said, so yeah, somebody sold about, at the time, $1.5 million worth of, I think, Pulse and PulseX only. But I did see that they also do have Hex stakes. Everybody was celebrating when they sold out, but then I think somebody pulled up that they also have Hex stakes too. Whatever. I mean, just send it down. I don't care anymore at this point. But so
I think their largest sell was Pulse X. Mostly, they had a huge bag of Pulse X, several hundred billion actually is what they ended up selling.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and that brought the Pulse price down below 50% of the SAC rate. We have hung out below there since then, so we're at about 52% off of there. I know somebody said this last week, and I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, there's a psychological point where a lot of people just think of the SAC rate because we're all aware of what it was and we keep referencing it. But is it even, you even said it kind of too, Ewok, that like the point we're at right now is technically like sacrifice rate for some people that, got in. Whatever, it is what it is. But I mean, we're half off of what people called the SAC rate, and at 4 zeros and a 4.7, I mean, we're only 15%, 20% up off the lows right now. So
yeah,
not by a lot. Pulse X, 80% off the SAC rate. It is, I think, a little bit further up off the lows, or it's probably, I mean, it's going to be similar basically. So at 4 zeros and a 2. Incentive tokens sitting at about 250 right now. It's come down quite a lot, of course. Hex has definitely gotten hit. It is at 7/10, 0066. Yeah. And EHEX has basically found its bottom. I mean, it just kind of is staying where it is now, it seems like. It didn't really get hit too hard after all this. And that ratio, I think you mentioned it last week too, Ewok, and I know people don't want to hear it, but the EHEX to PHEX ratio has gotten much closer after all this. So,
yep.
I'm curious where you want to go with this. Maybe if you want to just look at the pulse chart to begin with, and then I'll let you kind of take it anywhere you want. But I mean, this chart basically just has turned into the pyramids, basically, over its lifetime, and come right back down here. So I did not think we would get down here. I didn't think there was a lot of levels we would get. I looked like an idiot about a month ago saying we'll never go below the SAC rate again. I'm done with any guesses like that at this point. But
no more predictions from you.
Well, no more predictions from me. I'm done.
So
I mean, if it's going to mean this for price, then I'm done. Yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11, so 12. So we have one itty bitty green candle.
Yeah.
And 11 red ones. So 11 out of the last 12 weeks were red candles. We are very much approaching, we're not far off. It's 3, 4, 3, 3, something like that. And we're at 4.7. So yeah, we're not far off of those local bottoms. Could do a double bottom. We've seen it before, right? And once it finds that area, takes off. There's a lot of times where things will come back to test that low just to make sure. And not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think anyway. I mean, it does suck for price. It sucks for looking at your wallet and realizing the value that's no longer there. But we've been doing that for 3 years now. So
yeah, really. Yeah.
What is a little bit more to finally double test that bottom just to see? I think at this point, since we're so close, that is what we definitely could see, could happen. A double, and it could be a quick one too. It could be a wick where people have that number set for limit orders somewhere, and we just bounce off of it. It may be, like I said, it may be very short-lived, but might not be a bad thing. A lot of times when you find a floor like that and it retests it just to make sure, a lot of times like that, you're looking at a lot of up afterwards. So it could be very bullish, long term, while it's a little bearish short term, but bullish long term. So I think that is quite in the cards at this point, and it wouldn't be a bad thing.
Well, and even you're talking about a double bottom. I mean, you looking at a weekly chart here. I mean, even this right now, a year from now, you could look at this chart and say that was a double bottom right there. I mean, like we're pretty much close enough. I mean, it's like 30% away at this point.
Sure.
So, and all I'm saying is like we're in that zone. I mean, we're pretty much already there right now. So what's another 30%?
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah,
It's not far off. And if it did happen, it wouldn't really be that big of a deal, you
right.
know. So I do see that in the cards since we've come this low. I thought at one point we were making higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, had a little pullback, and we were still better off than a lot of these. But once we went past this one, you know, it was kind of inevitable for it to go down a little bit more.
Yeah. Yep, I think so too. And we're just, at this point, it's just kind of like, hey, I mean, we're along for the ride. And if you have, held these bags and been in this ecosystem for this long and everything, like there's people that are upset and it's like, look at this token. Obviously, you're going to be like, look at this token that ran, look at this stuff on Solana and all these things. When you hear that, it's kind of like, well, what do you propose doing then? Like, what are you saying to do? Like, are you advocating for selling nearly the lows and buying something that already went up? Like what is the strategy? And that's the thing that you already have to have figured out. I mean, like even if you do have it figured out, you can still feel pain right now. I mean, like you can still, hey, I'm DCing into this ecosystem. I believe in this. I've done the research. I don't need convinced of anything. When the prices go down, you're still convicted. But like you can still have pain when you're like that. But if you didn't get convicted like that, and now you're sitting here like, oh, what do I do? I mean, what is your plan? If it's not something that you already had like written down somewhere or knew that you were going to do, and it's kind of a going off of a whim because you're just feeling weak right now, you're probably not going to be happy in a year with the decision that you make.
Yeah.
Um,
Just looking at the incentive token, it's showing a lot more, I don't want to say strength, but we are way off of its bottom down there at 40 cents. So it's still up probably a 5x from its lows, if not a little bit more, maybe a 6x. So that's quite interesting how, Hart's Law isn't really coming into play. I mean, while there are still red candles, it hasn't retraced quite as much.
mhm.
And it could be because of just the sheer lack of volume of tokens. We always think about the number of coins that are out there, and there are far less incentive that are held by people. So a
Yeah.
lot of those that get earned get dumped right away to go back into another coin or whatever it may be. So there aren't people holding huge bags of them other than, a handful of people.
Right.